Diversity. There's no denying it's a buzzword on Trinity's campus. But what do the people who are part of the campus actually think about this subject as it pertains to Trinity and to our lives in general?
Trinity defines diversity, I think, with the biblical vision of diversity, which I really love, that we see diversity as part of the way that the world ought to be, that God made us all unique and different, and that there's beauty in that.
So when I hear diversity on Trinity, it kind of makes me cringe because they have this wonderful concept, but I think they just accept the fact that they're here and not necessarily embracing all that it has.
The difference among the students, like on campus, like cultural, ethnic, and like racial diversity among the students, like just difference in variety among students and the different kind of cultures that they bring to campus life.
Trinity defines diversity by all God's creation coming together, and because we have grace, all the brokenness and divisions that were put here by sin, we can break those down and build unity.
You know, some people can walk, some people can't walk, some people can study after midnight, some people can't. You know, skill sets and interests too, I think, make a diverse campus.
Well, I feel like you should let it happen. There's ways we can encourage it, certainly, like going out of our way to interact with people different than us, but I don't feel like we should try too hard or give black-only scholarships like people do and stuff like that.
I think about diversity most probably specifically as it relates to you know, those similar types of elements, so race and ethnicity and nationality. I think there are other pieces that are important as it relates to diversity, but I typically think about those things as kind of first and foremost.
Even if we express fear and joy and sadness and love in different ways, it's all still fundamentally the same thing. So you get to be around people who are different than you and you realize, wow, they're like me. They just maybe do things a little bit differently. So that's how I define diversity. That's why diversity is important to me.
In the nation of private schools in terms of ethnically diverse, multiracial, multi-denominational backgrounds. That number stands out, and we don't really always need to toss around statistics, but that one particularly is super important.
Trinity as a college wants to embrace diversity, embrace that difference, but also embrace unity and diversity.
Trinity presents opportunities for diversity in interest-wise and having lots of different kinds of activities on campus. As I was kind of saying, you have theater, you have sports, you have different clubs and activities if you're looking at diversity in that way.
We get time to be a community, to get to know one another at like lunch, at dinner, in our classes. I feel like that's several opportunities that you have outside of campus. Most of the time we probably all talk to each other, but are we willing to acknowledge that we are of different diverse backgrounds and getting to know that diverse background a little bit more than just the little bit that they're willing to tell you or show you.
Studying abroad and seeing other cultures is a way to do that. But staying in Illinois and Chicago, there's plenty of opportunities to volunteer and experience people of other cultures.
I mean, they actively recruit students of color. They bring all black schools on campus and give them visit days, have expedited application processes for them.
But quite honestly, our campus is pretty young in this. We are trying to love our neighbors as ourselves, but we're often too busy to do so, or our frame of reference is too narrow, and we just don't even see the other.
Of course, there's always room for growth and room to add things. What I would add would be just an increased conversation, you know, about diversity and what it means.
It's more so up to us as students now. The founders, the people in the board have laid out the format. We've been given the plan. It's time for us to carry it out. That's pretty much what we're doing. We're being stagnant ourselves. And that's not to just say it's just the students, but it can also be faculty, it can be staff, it can be everybody getting to know each other, diverse backgrounds.
Diversity for the sake of diversity is not diversity. I think that diversity should just happen naturally. I don't think we need to create opportunity for diversity. I think it should just flow.
I kind of get the impression that we're a big Dutch school, and but I've seen lots of diverse students here, and I feel like if we could reach out more to them, yeah, that would help present the diversity more across campus.
It's always gonna be a play it by ear kind of game in terms of a recruitment side, but we know what works and we know how to present ourselves for it where it doesn't come across like we need you because you're diverse.
I've experienced diversity in the theater department particularly. That is a place where students of all different kind of majors and ethnic backgrounds and interests can all come and put on a play together without the assumption that we're all going to become actors in our life. Like this fall, I was in a play with someone who's an exercise science major, and it was his first play ever, and like that kind of diversity and bringing it together in a really good way. Contrastingly, I've had a negative experience with diversity in some of the FYF kind of areas. I've talked to some FYF staff about how they view diversity, and they were very unhappy with my view of not wanting to focus on racial diversity and wanting to focus more on people's interests and stuff. And I think that influenced kind of where I ended up position-wise in jobs and stuff here.
Well, at first, like, some of my profs were surprised that I would, like, talk because I'm a dark-skinned male, which usually dark-skinned males are just, like, in the classroom and they don't really care. So they were all kind of shocked at first. It's like, oh, hey, we have this person who's of color and does stuff, and then they're all excited. Which is interesting because I'm not even really that much different from them. I grew up in an all-white community.
I can continue to be a musician, but I can also be a student assistant on the basketball team. So me and myself, I'm allowed to be a diverse human being where I'm not focusing just on worship and music like I do with being a part of the Outcry team, or being just a basketball manager like I am for the basketball program. I can do both and therefore make myself more well-rounded and more diverse.
We started talking about white privilege and this idea of systematic racism. So this idea that I am walking through life as a white woman, being looked at and treated differently than a student with another ethnicity or race might be. And it shocked me. I was pretty naive, thought racism was a thing of the past, didn't realize that I might be given things purely because of the color of my skin versus what I had, what I can do or how I treat people.
This should not ever become us family versus them white people or them persecution, because that isn't the way we're supposed to think. And if we're thinking that way, this problem is never going to be solved. I like what Antoine and Chanel said about hearing with empathy and hospitality, because there's always going to be ignorance, like you said. But if we're thinking with a God-like mentality, saying, well, I know you're coming from this perspective, but I'm going to be loving and hear with empathy and say, and correct you. Because it's okay to correct people. You have the right to correct them. But hearing with empathy, hearing with love, and knowing that this is never going to be an us versus them thing, because once that happens, there's no other solution.
It cannot go without saying that it's not always going to be that easy. We have to understand that. We have to deal with that. We have to love on each other through that process, and continue to encourage the campus and each other to grow in love, because we can't have each other hurting. We can't hurt each other. We can't hurt anybody else. We gotta love as God loved us.
A lot of how we can become more comfortable integrating or meshing or joining together has to start with conversation. I think we get so scared of offending each other that we don't talk about it.
It doesn't feel comfortable because we're so focused on like, this person has this color skin, is from this like culture, so it's like different in that sense. I think because of that, the big emphasis on diversity ends up creating more segregation than like meshing of cultures.
Unsensitivity training instead of sensitivity training, which is how to not make people mad. I feel like we could encourage people who are the diversity of Trinity's campus not to be hypersensitive about things.
I think just overall we have to reinforce the idea with all our students that college is not where you go to just continue to be around the same people who you've been around for 18 years and continue to hear the same ideas and never grow as a person. Like, you're supposed to come here and be exposed to new people, new ideas, and new things.
And so I think if there is a foundation of love and you're remembering that and you're remembering the grace that you've been shown from Christ, that will come out in your tone. You know, the Bible also says, from the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. And so that includes words, but also tone. And so it's just being mindful of who is around you and how they need to be loved.
There's a season and a time, and maybe even a season within a day, where you just need to be with people who are part of your own culture, who understand you and who can support you and what you're going through. And I think there are times where we need to be challenged to step out of our comfort zone and get to know people who aren't like us so we can be blessed by what they have to offer.
I think we tend to think about diversity in terms of like mixing it up interpersonally, like my best friend is Indian, or my best friend is black, or my best friend is Asian, or whatever. But instead thinking about ourselves in terms of church, in terms of circles of friends, in terms of Bible study groups, trying to think more corporately about diversity on our campus would probably be something we might not have done very much of yet.
I feel it's definitely a buzzword, but it's definitely a buzzword that is necessary. Some think it's overused, just like worldview is overused, but it's still something that we need to pay attention to in the world around us, not just this little bubble at Trinity. And so I think that its emphasis on it here is a good thing.
Open mind and open heart. It starts with your mind. If you have an open mind about diversity in itself, more so than just the generic definition of diversity, that opens up windows of opportunity for so much.
It's a tough topic. This is never an easy topic. It's like the Miss America, like, oh, well, I wish for world peace. And every campus on this planet will say, well, we want diversity. And part of that is because that's what makes the world go round. But another part of it is like, why wouldn't it be? Like, as God's people, we come from all walks of life. We are this huge melting pot of a country, of a nation. Why wouldn't we be diverse?